You're ready, Ms. Blank.
Hi, everybody. We're here for the Outreach Committee meeting. And the first thing on our deliberations is communications with the weekly spotlight at the PBIS menu offering.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Blank. Last month's meeting, you asked us to look up a couple things. I want to talk about the weekly spotlight with the radio station. We did reach out to Todd Marino. He was supposed to get back to us today. Unfortunately, he did not. But we are looking at working on something that the kids can go on there as part of our positive behavior intervention supports reward system. So Justin worked up a skeleton, which I sent to you for some input about how that would work moving forward. We are waiting to hear from Todd Marino about whether or not they can accommodate. He thinks they can, but he doesn't want to speak without talking to the higher ups, and I understand that. So at this point, that's where we're at. It's not ready to go yet, but I think we're heading in the right direction. Fair enough?
That sounds great. Did we check on newspaper if we could get pictures of the classes and stuff in? Like a weekly, more of a weekly spotlight or something?
I did not. We started with the radio only because what we're doing is we thought if we were going to connect it to positive behavior intervention sports, the kids already have their picture taken for being recognized as one of the students of the day or students of the month. And that's how they can spend their points, and their pictures already on the wall. So we are going to include that on our social media and then include Indiana Gazette in our link so they have access to it. But right now we're working on a radio station because we thought that was a little bit more interactive and kids would like that because they had a chance to explain why they got selected, et cetera, et cetera. Todd, I think it has some, I don't want to say concerns, has some questions about how do we do it so it's not overtaking the whole morning show and whatnot. And I said, we'd be glad to work on those details. So we haven't sorted them out. And as soon as I do, I'll bring it back.
Sounds great.
Okay. The next thing on the list, item 1B, is, as you know, the committee asked us for some designs in local businesses to bring forward. I came up with 7 different offerings. Eric Pushkar did a great job working with us on this as well. I just need to know what you want, which one you like. Is that what you had in mind? Do you want me to move forward? If so, then I have to bring it to the board to have the board authorize the expenditure. But before I do that, I just need to know, have feedback, which sign you like. So I give you 7 different options to look at.
Could you put them up so that other people can?
Yes, I can have Jared. Randy, can you pull up option number 1? And we'll just go through these one by one. So that's the first one. And I didn't know what you're looking for, Ms. Blank, when we talked. I think you hit it on. How much, Mr. President, do you mind if I stand up?
Oh, no, go ahead. No.
When you spoke, you said, look, I want the website address on there and I want our phone numbers. So we kind of took that verbatim. So that was the first iteration. But we could also do ones where we support ISD or ISD Pride or something like that. You'll see the other ones. We had different versions. Just need to know what exactly you like, and we can always redo these as well. It's relatively quickly. Randy, can you go to option number 2? Just like what I'll do is I'll just go through them.
Yeah.
And then you can decide how you want to go from there. Again, pretty similar. It looks like I made hyperlink actually the same one, but their top's different. Yeah, a little different on top there. Again, just trying to create some pride in the community, because when you look at all the polarization, all the political nastiness and fighting, our goal is to say, look, let's just block out the noise, but just board has done a good job and kind of focus on one school district, one community.
I really can't. What's the slogan on
One school
top?
district, one community.
Yep.
I think if we go with 2, that we should put the lettering on the top as white,
Okay,
as well as the phone numbers and the ISDCC at the bottom,
okay.
because that would be a nice contrast, and people like me who are half blind would be able to see it.
So you want solid font?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to number 3, Randy. Again, this is one without the phone numbers, website, just different iteration, because we didn't know exactly what the committee was looking for.
Right.
So we just kind of spitballing. Number 4. Okay, just another iteration. And these are ones where, again, they're not above vamping. We could fit different information. I think what you need to do is pick the style you like the best, and then we can vamp it.
Right.
Let's go to the next one, Randy. I lost track. I don't know if we're on 4 or 5.
I think it's 5.
5.
is next.
Pretty simple. Let's go to the next one. Pretty straightforward and clean. Hey, Randy, let's go to the next one.
I think that was it. That was number 7.
Okay. I really like number 5 and number 2.
Okay.
Especially if you take number 2 and make the font solid. Number 5, we could do as a smaller one for anybody who might want to put it in their window of their car, or, that could be a smaller little school pride thing if somebody wants one.
So one of the things that I would suggest, Tammy, is that I like your idea of the larger one and the smaller one, but I would also maybe pick a second one for the larger, because after it's been out for 6 months or a year, just like a website, you have to freshen it.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe we just fund enough to do this initial, but if the committee were to agree to a second one, then a year's time, he could, rather than have Mike go back and reinvent six other of those type signs,
Right.
then we could, just say, okay, or let him make the decision, or this committee make the decision to go ahead and freshen it by putting out a new sign,
Right.
okay, to keep the top of the mind awareness.
Yeah, I think that even if we just switch the colors on number 2 for switch out in 6 months, I think that would work well.
You just need to change something to keep them attracted to it. That's all.
Right. The whole catching them in the first 3 seconds and then every 10 seconds after.
And
There you go.
And Mrs. Blank, if it's okay with you and the committee, what I was going to do is I'm on, as you know, on the chamber. I was just going to work with the Chamber of Commerce and solicit some people who may want to put signs. That way, I don't have the time to knock on doors and ask people what they want to do. So I thought I could go through Mark Hilliard and the chamber, if that's okay with the committee.
That sounds great to me.
At this point, though,
It's a good starting place.
Is that okay? Yeah.
If anybody else wants.
Agreed.
They can inquire.
is that how you want me to move forward? I'll defer to you.
Yes, if that's what the,
Sure.
how much will the initial cost be for doing all?
We called and we're waiting on a price. We did not get back. What I would do, Miss Blank, if it's okay with you, update the signs, give you something a little bit more concrete based on the feedback I got tonight. Have that ready to go for Monday night's consideration, because we didn't allot for it. It's not in the budget, so we could just simply approve it Monday night, but you would see prior to Monday, the updated version, if that's okay with you.
Sounds great.
And maybe what we could do is start a small increment. I don't know what they come in. I don't know if it's cheaper I'm assuming it's cheaper for how many you produce. But it's going to be probably the size of like a political sign, like, the ones you put in your yard.
Mhm.
So we're going to look something like that, and I'll see what I could do for pricing on that.
We could have them sized of the political signs, or we could just have them sized to be 5 by 7 to go in a door.
Okay.
Of a business, like someone who's going into Burger King or whatnot.
You tell me whatever size you want.
I think that would be 5 by 7 would be a better size to start off with.
Sure.
Because you see those posters on the side of the road, and right now we're going to get into political and primary. People are just going to start driving by them. They're not going to look, and they can't access the phone numbers very easily that way
Yeah.
either.
Having a couple of different sizes probably does make a certain amount of
Pricing
sense.
For a variety, then we can.
Yeah.
Sure,
decide
okay.
Once we see all that.
Okay.
I will work on it.
For example, a place like mine,
It's small.
Yeah.
one of the yard signs out by the front gate might make more sense, okay, than, because I'm not like on Main Street where I'm walking by looking in the window.
Right.
Okay, so having a couple of different options, Mike, might be the right way to go.
I will have something by next Monday. Is that fair enough, Ms. Blank?
Sounds great.
Any questions on number 1? Did you want Justin to give an overview about how the Pbs Reward System would work?
Oh, yes, please.
You want to do that, Justin?
Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, they can hear you. Yep.
So the idea was to, at each of the buildings, all of our elementaries, junior high, they have an incentive menu as part of their PBIS program. And so the idea behind PBIS is to teach the expectations for students across all settings. So there's expectations for the classrooms, the hallways, the buses, and students are explicitly taught this. And when students earn their bucks or their incentive tickets, they can turn those in for an incentive. And as part of that, what we were talking about was adding to the incentive menu for each building the idea that they could be student of the month. And we'll have to work with the school's PBIS teams to determine how many tickets will constitute, student of the month. So, in most cases, like student could get, if they get 5 tickets or $5 or so, they can turn that in for, a notebook, an Indiana notebook or something like that. So we want to make it so that it has a decent cost to it, so that it means something. But then the idea was also to have those students that did become and choose to be the student of the month, those students, their pictures would be taken, posted in a hallway or in some type of showcase at the school level. Then we would, take a picture of that showcase, get that out via Twitter, get that out via Facebook, and then also have potentially that opportunity to be on the radio as well. So that was the idea.
Is there, okay, I like the idea. Is there any way that, because I'm thinking of the kids that don't have much money or anything, they're probably not gonna think that they can get to student of the month. Is there any way that we can, we keep track of what they've gotten reward with, right?
Yeah. So each student, I would say, if it would be about maybe 15 or so would probably be a good number. So as they earn those tickets or bucks, they would, if they got to the point where it was 15, and they could essentially keep track of those for, if a student at the beginning of the year has been keeping track of theirs, they have 15 already, they could probably just turn that in for student of the month recognition.
Yeah, but what I'm thinking is, if they could use that for pencils or whatnot, they might
Yeah.
want to do that instead. And it might be nice for them not to have to turn in their PBIS.
Well, rather than making it so you buy student of the month status, you turn in one of your dollars when you earn $1. So as long as you earn $1, you turn it in, and that's a chance, and it's more of a lottery.
Yeah, we could do that. I think we could do it either way. I think that makes sense also. Yeah.
Because what if you got like 3 kids that want to be student of the month?
Yeah.
We did something like that with the Principal 100 board where the kids all put their names in there, and then the row, we use a bingo board like kind of thing. The number, whatever row we ended up with, then that row got the ice cream treat or whatever it was that month.
So almost as like a drawing.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that makes
I will-
makes complete sense.
I will say this, they like to hoard their bucks. I've got kids
Yeah,
that
I know.
I've got kids that have over $100 stored up,
So all they would
Worry
have to,
about having lots of bucks is not it. They squirrel them away.
That's
So-
reflective of our financial literacy program. we have
Yes.
going on.
so in this case, what we're saying is if they would just turn in one buck, it gets put into a
Raffle.
raffle. And then-
they can purchase more than one.
Right.
Yeah, and then once a month, Aaron or the building principal selects, I don't know, we'll have to determine how many per month, maybe one per grade. And then those students get selected, and then we do the same thing, recognize them as, as part of that showcase or that wall, and then get them on the radio if we can.
You cool with that?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, that's good.
so how many does the average student earn over the period of the year?
It just depends.
Is it hundreds or is it,
Oh, it can be hundreds, yeah. Very
Okay.
easy.
So
I've
they
got
can still
kids,
get their other treats.
yeah, so
Yeah.
I've got, like, in a daytime, like, if I might go in the room and I might give half the class $1 one day, and then the next day, they get dollars from all different sources. They get them in the cafeteria, they get them at bus lines, all
Okay.
over the place. We try to shower them with, we want to reward the positive behavior, especially right now with all the, time off from COVID. So
Yep.
we really want to let the people who are behaving well shine. So we tend to
Reinforce the
reinforce
behavior.
the positive behavior a lot.
I like that a lot.
I like the idea. of the
Yeah,
drawing.
I do too.
And we can make that change. I know our next FU, we're going to bring that up as part of the administrators meeting that we have. And we'll ask principals to help with that.
And I've even had kids that take the dollars and save them from year to year.
And yeah, I've got a child that does the same
And
thing.
then I had one group,
PBIS retirement.
yeah, I had one group, I had one group one year, they pulled, the whole class pulled their bucks together so they get this really big reward. And the little guy, they would all sit there and say, so-and-so contributed this many, so they can have a half hour extra recess or something, so they can pull it all together and do that. They all did that, so they like the bucks, and they get real creative, and it was one of the guys I saw, he had a little notebook, it was almost like a little bookie book, this many gave this many dollars, this many gave this many dollars, and so forth. So who got to participate?
I can just see the headlines on the paper now.
It really does work for the positive behavior, it does, and it's nice to see the kids working towards a goal in that aspect too.
We have a teacher, I'll spare his name for now, but he had a great idea. He has a real long beard and he wants to get rid of it. So we're thinking some ideas to get rid of like a lot of money to make it like $100 a kid can go up with and we'll make sure it's safe and put gloves on and zoom, zoom, zoom and cut. And then speaking about radio, we were talking about maybe having the newspaper come in and do a big thing on it. These kids earning positive behavior award. You can imagine the kids loving shaving the beard.
That was perfect publicity. That is absolutely wonderful.
So I'll call the Gazette and see if we can have some good publicity for our kids and what the good things we're doing, and feather the cap for the teacher to want to,
Or maybe we could do it at the radio station because they do live streaming of our interviews every time.
Yeah.
So we can, we'll figure it out.
That's cool.
Is that where you're
Get
looking for?
both.
Is that where you're looking for them, Ms. Blank, since
Yeah.
last meeting? Okay.
Because you also have that robot wars that were going on, and I cannot wait to battle you, Sid. I really can't. I think this is gonna be awesome.
Good.
But those are the kind of outreach things that we need to get out more into the community, so the community knows what's going on in the schools.
Yep.
And so on and so forth. So,
Does that work then? Okay. Any other questions, number one, Ms. Blank?
No?
Or
Any
board?
questions?
Okay. Number two is not, I didn't win that one. Had a meeting today with IUP at the interim, the communications department. And at this point, they don't feel it's feasible at this time because they don't feel we can properly support an intern that meets their federal requirements. In this case, we don't have a person solely dedicated to marketing, and they want someone an industry that has that place. We don't. So that door is closed as far as interns. But we know we previously talked about website manager discussion. I'd also like to hold off on that. I'd like to see what happens internally with some staffing. For example, if Mr. Atlantic does not come back, does this board have a conversation about looking at a full-time athletic director who oversees some of that marketing? I don't know, but I'd hate to see us hire one person for that and another person for this. I'd like to give Greg some time to see where he's at, what his thoughts are, and then see how we can, if we're going to make a full-time position, how do we morph that into other things? And again, Ms. Cindy, if you're okay with it, we'd have some conversation at your policy and personnel committee as well, because I just don't know what's happening with Greg and what his intentions are at this point. But I hate to see us start one thing only to change gears. And I think this could be I don't say take advantage. It could be a good opportunity to find someone who can wear multiple hats like us, meaning athletic director, website content, and or safety. I don't know what those combinations would be, but we need to have some further conversations. And those other dominoes haven't fallen yet, meaning if Greg's coming back, I support him coming back because he's been nothing but great. But if he chooses not to, I think it's an opportunity to reimagine the position.
All right, how long should we wait?
I asked Greg to get back to us in the next week or two.
So by the next meeting, we should know.
Maybe at policy and personnel or athletics, I'm hoping to have some sort of idea where he's at, if that's okay.
Okay. All right. And
Okay.
then, I think that's it for that.
Yep.
Section.
For number 3, I called you and Walter, asked you personally about this every year. I think Ms. Cindy was a part of it. I know Mr. President was. The PSBA, Pennsylvania School Board Association, likes to partner up with certain school districts. We've been one of the ones that they really like to partner up with and conduct some legislative roundtables and some advocacy days for our school district and our county. So the last one we had was virtual, and the one before that was at the high school. As you and I discussed, we're looking at late March, early April, and I'd like to include the other school districts because, again, one of the charges of this board has been to try to build some coalition with all the surrounding schools. And they come every year, and I'd like to continue to invite. I think you were at the one that we had in present when it was in person, Mr. President. But the only thing that I need permission from this committee for was, one, Mrs. Blank and Mr. President already supports the meeting, but we would have to look at some cost for lunch. In the past, PSBA's covered it. They can't do it this time. I was wondering if the board would like to entertain some minimal cost for lunch in that day. Last time we did like chicken salads or something.
You did lunch, or this meeting is going to be in the high school again, in the LGI again.
Yes, I talked to Wade, and Wade's agreed to host us. Yes,
Then would Chartwell's, was that something?
that's what we would
Chartwell's
probably go
do?
through. Yep,
Okay.
yep. But there would be an expenditure that we
Yeah, no, I
plan for.
understand.
Yep.
I understand.
I think that would be something acceptable. I mean, Any problem? No.
Usually what we do in that day, we have fierce conversations about cyber charter reform. That's the one I usually bring up. But then we're also going to talk about, what's going to happen with PlanCon. I know that's been removed, but are they going to invest any more money? As you know, this Commonwealth is sitting on a pretty nice, hefty rainy day fund. So they have some funds available, and I'd like to know what they're doing with that. And I think we have responsibility to advocate to them.
And is this just state legislatures, or will this include GT?
It's right now, it's the state legislators, but we always like to include GT because, as you know, he likes to come to a lot of our events and he's been very
Okay.
supportive of. So I'd like to invite him to be a part of it if you're okay with it.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Now, the
Yeah.
conversation may not pertain to him as much as it does the local guys, but to him, like, for example, tonight you're going to talk to me about Horace Mann, and I don't know what to do with it because one thing I'm waiting to find out at the federal level is what are you doing with early education? At one point, you're talking about funding pre-K for everyone, making it mandatory for grades for 4-year-olds. Well, if they do that, then maybe that's a use of the building. So, but I don't want to come forward and say, hey, do that, and then the money not come through. So I think to hear his input from the federal level, what that means, what that impact could be, I think would be beneficial. So, and every time, like, there's a lot of schools, Jared and Eleanor deserve a lot of credit. They've prepared accordingly with the lunches for the year and order enough food in advance. But there's a lot of schools who were at some points for not having enough food. We were in that position. But my point is, when that happened, GT's office reached out to me. Are you guys okay? What are you guys dealing with? What are you facing? So I just want to continue that relationship because he's been good to us. And the more we can get people listening to us and having some dialogue, I think is important. If you're okay with that.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's a wonderful idea.
Okay. That's all I have for agenda items. The next are non-agenda items, but is there anything you want me to address that I didn't cover with the first three?
No, you covered those very well.
Under non-agenda meeting frequency, as you know, we discussed this at last month's academic committee meeting. I'm sorry, this month's last academic committee meeting. And we decided that future meetings will occur at 5 p.m. On the third Monday of every month prior to buildings and grounds and transportation. So they're not combined meeting. I also sent out my SMORE newsletter, all the dates about the different meetings so people are aware, try to create that interest for people coming to it. Also sent out a newsletter, like I said, via SMORE. I can add a pop-up to the website to tell on the day of meetings to tell people when the meetings occur, but all the meetings are on our website. And we also reminded families of the directions to download the website app for their phones and what that would do instead of going to a browser and looking at the whole site. It really would just take them to our latest news and calendar feature. So if they want to scroll through that, they can. And then we also had a snafu about parents updating their contact information. So we sent another reminder how to do that. That goes through the parent contacting and doing some different work on their end. So we sent that out on social media as well.
Okay,
The issue on some more, though, whenever I go to open it, it tells me that it may be spam, it may be phishing, it may be name something else. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any, what I don't know is whether if you're using that to communicate with people outside the district, are they getting that same message, which then tends to be everybody puts their guard up and then maybe blocks that message or erases it or whatever. So,
I don't
Yeah,
believe
good
it
question.
does.
Yeah.
pardon?
I don't believe that it does.
Yeah, Randy looked
It's
at it.
our internal security protocol because it came from an outside
Yes.
email address instead of the school email address.
Okay.
That's why it generates that.
Yep. Randy looked at that, corrected that, so it doesn't do it externally. And we could track the number of views we have on our newsletters. I'm popping anywhere between 1,500 to 2,500 views on my newsletter, but I think people are ultra sensitive right now with COVID and they're used to hearing from me. So I think that's why I'm getting a lot more looks of mine compared to the buildings. But the buildings are still averaging anywhere between 300 to 400 views on their newsletters as well. But I think, I think what we have to do though is be careful. I respect this committee. I respect your desire to want to outreach and communicate, but I want to be sensitive about the email because I also think it could be over communicating and over burdensome. Like when I first got here, this is the same board that charged me with being careful about how many text messages and robocalls I sent because it was getting inundating. So I just want to balance those two lines because I know our need and desire to communicate, but I also don't want to turn people away from just deleting the emails as well. Does that make sense without being offensive?
people do get really inundated, really worn out fast. When we had the community group that fought against the mega school. After the mega school was shot down, we made it our job to inform everybody when the next meetings were. We had a website, we emailed, all these news updates, and we finally started getting things back. Take my name off your list, stop sending me these emails. So it's very easy to really
Get
wear them
inundated.
out, yeah. And then if they see the name, they're not even gonna click, they're just gonna delete.
Yeah.
So we need to be careful.
Yeah. So I think we've done a lot in the way of communicating over 3 years compared to what we were doing. I just need to know if that meets your expectations. I think we've done a lot, but I don't send out personal messages about one specific item. The only reason I don't do that is how do I pick and choose? Like, what's to say Dr. Schaefer's not more important or more concerned about the boiler at the high school compared to a roof at East Pike? Like, I don't know how you discern between the two, and I don't think you do that. I know that may be a bad example, but do you get the point? Like, I think there has to be some ownership to be transparent. We're doing that, but there has to be some ownership for people to be able to look and decide what they feel is important and what they want to advocate for. So that's why I don't do a blanket size email to all, because I think it's going to turn people away. People are going to get inundated with email, but also it's so subjective that, that's why I included, hey, here's a list of dates of all of our committee meetings come out. So I think we've done our job to advocate, to communicate. And look, there's one thing about Indiana. The parents are incredible here. If they have a concern, they call. And they're good about that, and that's what we welcome. But I think we've done our part. But if there's anything different you want me to do, let me know. But the only caveat is I just want to be sensitive not to overwhelm people or make email now a nuisance where they just delete it and not hear our messages.
What if we did a pop-up on the website of what's on the agenda for that night, or if for that week, and so that way people can see it right there, and they can come in and or not if they want.
Yep.
That way would stop the I'm not hearing this, I don't know about this. It's right there. Just popped right up on your screen. Just look at it.
I could do a pop-up like I do for snow days. I can do that real easy. And what I'll say, if you're okay with it, we could try it. Academic and extracurricular committee meeting tonight. Click here for the agenda. Can you live with that?
Yeah, I can.
Now, are you okay if I just do on Monday mornings? Because
That's fine.
Okay.
You've got so much work.
Well,
Everybody knows they're on Monday, so.
Yeah.
If you do it on other days, I'm gonna click on that,
don't show me again. That's exactly why. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
You're right.
And that's the only reason I bring it up. Because like people, as much as we want to communicate, some don't want to be. I don't say bothered, or they don't have multiple layers. Yes.
Somebody nagging at you,
Agreed.
telling you 30 times in a row.
Agreed. So I'll do a pop-up on Monday morning. Is that okay?
That sounds great.
Okay.
As for the committee meeting minutes, I had a thought, we have the calendar up there. People can click on it, shows all the agenda, and, it shows the meeting and committee meetings. And people can go back to the past, right? What if they clicked on it and it also gave them, it had a PDF of the minutes? So that way they don't have to spend a half hour watching a video. They can spend 10 minutes reading the minutes, and they don't have to worry about going to YouTube if they don't want to.
We do both.
Some of you have that already?
We do.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't.
We do. Yep. I do both. I think I need to do a little bit of job organizing. Miss Cinda and I had a conversation about that. There's some organizational side I think I need to look at, but we do copy the minutes. And let's talk about that. So I take the minutes because when I first got here, and this is no disrespect to anyone on the board, everyone set their own agendas and everyone set their own minutes. And when I was looking through them, it's like whoever's in that seat was driving that ship, and that's not really necessarily reflective of the whole district. So this board, led by you and Madam Vice President, said, Mike, you can make the menu, but we get to have final say, and we get to add pieces too. So like with you, I always draft the agenda, share it with the committee, say, hey, what's your thoughts? What do you want to add? And then I copy and make the minutes and post them on the website and then the video. And I think those do a couple different things. One, remember, and again, I know I'm talking to the group, and you all know this, committee meetings are not official minutes or official decisions of this board. It's deliberation. Official minutes are done after you approve it every month, right? So every month you approve official minutes for the previous month. Those are official minutes. But yeah, people have the right to go through and look at the summary that I type up, and then the nice safety check there. Hopefully Miss Cinda, Mr. Hart, everyone in this room almost can vouch. I always send it to you saying, please review before I post. And that's my quality check to make sure that someone's reviewed it that reflects the conversation, because there's a lot of authority with me typing, so I want to make sure it's fair.
But you only do certain committees, and then I think Jared does.
I do the
others.
important committees. I do.
Only Madam Vice President.
Yes, you're
Yeah.
do now.
I do academic and extracurricular outreach and policy and personnel. Jared's responsible for
Audit,
audit, finance, and buildings grounds. Yeah.
But hey, you can take full credit for everything there. You're doing a good job.
I just think that when we're doing the committee meeting minutes, that we need to get more details in there, because when people ask, well, how did you come up with that decision? What deliberations were taken? Did you come up with that?
I disagree with that. Right now, Mike takes the agenda, he puts in a brief synopsis of what we talked about. If you try to do this conversation back and forth,
I'll never
you
get
and I had this conversation, it ends up being this
It
mess.
doesn't have to be that
You have the
detailed.
video, the video, if you want to find out what I said right now. Okay, but this conversation never appeared as minutes. We had a brief discussion about blah, blah, blah. Okay, it gets way too complicated to track the conversations, the discussions in writing.
Okay, one question, real quick.
Mhm.
Does anybody hear Tom?
Oh, Randy, it's all coming through. We got new speakers, new microphones. Yeah.
I'm teasing you. I'm teasing you.
No,
But-
women have complained about not being able to hear me for 35 years.
We definitely heard that.
They're very sensitive and they're
Very
yeah, they're very sensitive.
I'm not saying that we get down into the minutia of the back and forth. I'm saying that so-and-so suggested this, so-and-so suggested this. This was just, and it was, but it was discussed.
It gets to be too time consuming to write and to track. And you have the video backup. Okay, so everything that you say that you can hear is on the video. If you're really curious about who said what to whom and what it was said.
Particularly for those people who have meetings that last 6 and 7 hours.
I've never had a meeting last 6
Oh,
or
I
7 hours.
That's next Saturday.
But it
That's
was
a special
important.
one.
It was important.
Yeah, it was one of the important committees there.
Yeah. I mean,
4 hours. I'll give you 4 hours.
I agree with Tom. I think that when I do it frequently, because I talk to you a lot, when I say, hey, I can't find this and this on the website. When I go back to look at an agenda, I don't want to see details about the meeting. I want to look and see, okay, this was the topic, this was decided. This is the topic, this was decided. I want it as short as possible. And if I don't like, or I think, oh, I don't understand it, then I go to the video. So I just think that we're going to be making somebody do a heck of a lot of extra work that I'm not sure how many people are going to use it. I know I'm certainly not.
Yeah, the other thing is that since Mike's taken over everything and does all the important committees, the agendas are better. And the minutes are consistent and they're posted in a timely manner. And having been one of the compatriots who didn't take good notes and didn't get around to posting the minutes, this is a significant improvement what we're doing right now over what we were doing 4 years ago.
I would certainly second that wholeheartedly, Tom. When it was up to the committee chairs to write the minutes, it became a huge burden to the committee chairs to get that done. And especially trying to get them turned around like 24 hours or 36 hours later. And with Mike's assistant and Jared's,
Wow.
you know,
Mike's.
and
You don't post my post. I'm sorry.
it certainly
Talk to
has
them more.
has improved the quality of the minutes as well as reducing the workload on the board members.
Yeah, well, and we now have the video behind it, which we didn't have.
Yeah, which we didn't have before. That's correct, Tom.
So that's really a backstop. You know, if you want to go back and see what I said for some reason today, you can do it in a year from now. You can still do it.
I mean, I have to admit, I would be a primary offender over this because rational linear thought is nowhere near what I can do. But
I found it difficult to take notes about what we were saying and run the meeting at the same time. And so then I'd go back to my office and the office would explode. And then 3 days later, I tried to figure out what the heck happened.
See, that's why I thought somebody who knew shorthand would be perfect here.
I don't think they teach shorthand anymore.
Oh, they do.
I did contact the company, and Ms. Blank asked me to look into it. It'd be $150 a meeting and
Okay.
$4 a page almost. So for
$4 a
Thousand.
page for a normal meeting, but think about what it is for.
No,
Tom.
no. I changed my
There goes the
mind.
money.
that's in a very
It would be
important committee.
$150 for a Tom meeting
You would probably spend anywhere between $1,000 to $1,500 a month.
a month.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you
No,
take the
no.
5 meetings and then the pages, and then can you imagine
Yeah.
documenting your
We would be-
academic
we would
committee
be
meeting?
broke.
You just have more money.
Yeah. So I just need to know what you want me to
have to
do.
figure out how to pay for it.
Yeah.
The other ones have it wired.
No, I'm good, never
Are
mind.
you sure? I mean, I can,
I'm sure, I'm
Okay.
sure. I am not gonna have somebody come up to me and go, you're the reason why I can't have this and this in the school, or this and that." No, thank you, I'm okay.
all right.
But maybe what we could do is when you do the minutes, just put the time where we started that conversation. So somebody could forward to the YouTube, in the YouTube video, to where that conversation started.
So you're gonna have to look at the video.
No,
before you
if
put
somebody
the
wants
minutes.
to look where Tom said, where we had this
I know,
discussion.
but whoever's writing it's gonna have to go back through that video.
She's right.
Minute by minute and look.
Yeah.
And they already sat through that meeting once. I do this occasionally.
She,
I do this occasionally and I will send a note to somebody, so-and-so said this at hour number 2 hours and 15 minutes and 32 seconds. I will do that for some people, but to do that for every meeting. oh
Okay,
my God.
okay.
Sometimes
I'm
it
sorry,
is,
Ken.
it's
I've been
ridiculous.
like,
If you
Okay.
wanna know, you gotta be here, or you gotta get on and watch the video. If you wanna know, if you're interested, you gotta make an effort.
So-
then I'm
Sometimes,
gonna be able to watch The Witcher. There's.
Yeah.
I do like that show.
sometimes sitting through a meeting is referred to suffering through it as well.
Mhm.
So, okay.
That's all I have, Ms. Blank. Is there anything else you need me to address?
No, I think that we're good. Thank you.
Randy, do we need to shut down this meet and open up another one, or are we just using the same one for buildings and grounds, sir?
Well, no, according to the website, it's actually a completely different meeting. So,
Okay.
if we're done, I'll stop the recording and I'll be up in a second and get the other one on.
Ms. Blank, are you okay if we?
I am good. I want to thank everybody for coming and I hope to see you again March 21st.
All right, Jared, do you want to close that out?
Huh?